Welcome to episode 31 of Agencyphonics. I'm here with Rebecca McIntyre-Smith from Primate Agency up in Edinburgh. How are you this afternoon? How are you this afternoon?
Good, thank you. Glorious and sunny up in Edinburgh today, so it's novel.
So I'm really looking forward to having a great conversation with you. I just want to say a quick couple of thank yous as always. First of all, thank you to you for coming today, because you are actually officially the last guest of our first year of Agencyphonics. So I can't believe we've done 31 episodes in the year. And it's, you know, we've learned a lot actually. We always said it'd be a 3-year journey, Agencyphonics, and just want to thank everyone for supporting us, for subscribing and following, and all the lovely comments. It means a lot, and I think it's working really well now. We're up to about 50,000 episode listens a year now, so we're actually, the volumes are really gaining momentum. So again, thank you to everyone listening and supporting us, and also to all of our wonderful guests. And as I announced on the last show, we've finally managed to secure a sponsor. I don't think everyone really realizes that all of the community work that we do, and Agencyphonics is all basically a not-for-profit social enterprise. We've been all pretty much, Cactus funds everything, whereas some people charge for membership or they get money from advertising. We get none of that stuff. But we've been getting a lot of people recently asking us, just clients moving over to Forecast. It seems like the last 6 months, Forecast, the project management platform, has just been going from strength to strength. And so they rang us up to tell us that a couple of their clients had joined, and we started talking, and it just seemed to make sense. They, you know, we're a big fan of their product, and they're a big fan of what we're doing. So we have a sponsor, which is great, because now we have some more funds to invest more in our vodcast, and we may even get a bit more professional now with better intros and things like that. But hopefully we won't lose our slightly down-to-earth, rough and ready touch. So thank you to Forecast. We're going to put details about them in the show notes. Do check them out. Excuse me. I hope that's not a COVID cough.
God.
Second of all, thank you to Wirehive. They do provide us with all their studio free of charge. Even though we're streaming this live from Hampshire and Edinburgh, we've got Caitlin in the studio, which is basically taking both the feeds in and sending it up to YouTube Live. So thank you to Caitlin for doing that, and thank you to Wirehive for everything they do. Again, check out Wirehive, fantastic company, everything around technology and cloud. They're the guys to go to. So now I've got those bits out the way, Rebecca, I can just start by saying that Mark Probert, who works for Cactus, obviously based in Edinburgh, was saying to me a while ago, I need to get you on the vodcast. And then you kind of did a Pecha Kucha with us in the community. Yep. I think most people know what a Pecha Kucha is. It's 20 slides in 20 seconds a slide, so it's about 7 minutes 40, I think, presentation about. We do talks on your journey and your story, and you told your story, and oh my God, I think I never cried so much in my life. I forgot to get the tissues next to me now. So it's going to go one of two ways. Right. I'm either going to be smiling and laughing or bawling my eyes out. So I was really touched by your story, and it just reminded me that I had to get you on the show, and I'm really delighted that you're here today to share your story with us. And you're in the office.
I'm in the office. Yeah, it's so nice. It's me. Oh, I just love coming in. I love that we moved into this office last year, and I just don't feel like we've got enough out of it yet. And it was part of our big growth plan. And there's tons of space. Socially distancing is not a problem in this office, but it's so, you can see it's so light. It's airy. I love it. I love being in here.
Tell me about the drawing. I'm guessing the primate is the connection.
Yeah, this is our monkey, Michelangelo.
Oh, of course. Yes, yeah, I see now.
If I get out of the way, you can see it.
Amazing. So who drew it?
It's awesome. Gab, one of our designers, our ex-designers actually now, he's moved back to Spain. He's an incredible illustrator, and he did all of our kind of brand illustrations, and we still use them. You'll see them on the blog, you'll see them on the website. There's lots of hidden kind of monkey illustrations throughout. It's like a little added extra. So it's not the core of the brand, but you will find them a lot.
So tell me first, why Primate? Where did the name come from?
So why Primate? So I didn't found the agency. I muscled my way in a couple of years after the guys started, and I assured them they needed me. But the name Primate, it connects both evolution and that digital evolution. And the guys ran through lots of different names, lots of different ideas. And at the time, kind of when the agency started, responsive was like the next big thing, and they really wanted to make a push and really lead with that and prove that we could do it better and faster than anybody else. And so that Primate and that evolution, just the synergy worked. So that's why Primate.
So when did the business start?
2011.
11, and when did you join?
2015.
15, okay. So what's the story around you joining? How did that come about?
So I first met Gordon, our other managing partner, back at another agency, Hee Haw, and I literally kind of fell into this industry. I, kind of like all the students probably this year, like COVID year, I graduated in 2010, straight into the recession. It was really messy. There was really no work. I was a journalist. Nobody was hiring. I moved down to London for 2 weeks. Before I'd even signed my contract, I was redundant again and back on the train. And so I was doing freelance voiceover for Hee Haw, and they invited me in to interview for the account manager role. And I'm going, well, I don't do maths. Like, this is not my thing. I'm a wordsmith. This is not me. They explained a bit about it, and I was hired on the spot, which was great. And then kind of dropped into this agency world. And I discovered Gordon one lunchtime, chatted away to him and persuaded him to give me like Web 101. So I actually knew what I was doing. And so we knew each other from there. And then actually like a month later, he left and the guys went away and set up Primate. And so I didn't reconnect with him again until 2015 when I left Hee Haw.
Wow, it's a good story. So is there 3 of you today?
There's 4 of us today.
4 of you today, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you find it with 4 of you in the business, sort of shareholders? Is that a good thing? Or does it mean your decision making takes longer because you all have to agree? Or
yeah, yes, probably. Our decision making is probably a little bit slower than it could be, but we all have, we're all in the same path. We all know where we want to go. We know where we want the agency to be. We're very good at kind of sitting down, having board meetings every month. Let's like hash through all the decisions that have to be taken, discuss them all, and the action will be taken the next month. So although yes, we have to come to an agreement, touch wood, we've yet to disagree. We seem to be on the same path, so it works well.
I do. It's funny. It's an observation that I've had just going into the volume of agencies I have been privileged to be able to do in the last 9 years, and obviously before that, and I've really noticed that there is when there's a single agency owner, on one hand it can be quite lonely. You don't have the support of other people around you. Yeah. You can make decisions quicker. And I think probably the fastest decision making, you've only got to convince one person about the journey of where you're going. And I love what you just said then about the 4 of you, all agree with that journey, because I think that is the secret. I think, when you go to four shareholders or more, I think I notice it when I go into board meetings. It takes 3 times longer at least to come to a decision, because everyone's got to have an opinion, everyone's got to have a perspective. I mean, sometimes you could argue the decision is better because it has more people, but other times it definitely causes an additional layer of procrastination. But I think what I love about what you just said is that whole kind of joined up vision. I think it's one of the most important things that all agencies, shareholders have got to have, and you've got to be honest with each other, haven't you? Like, if one of you doesn't want to go on as far in the journey, then say so sooner, because I work with one agency, and one of the shareholders, they wanted to go at about like when their stake was worth a certain level of money, they wanted to leave, so we helped them buy them out so the other shareholders could take it on to the next level. So I think that's it's always quite good to share these nuggets when we come across them in conversations, because I don't get to talk about that much. So when you went there, how many people were in the team?
When I joined, there were 7. No, 6 of us. I made 7, and we're now up at 12.
12. And were you 12 before COVID? How's that affected you?
We were 11 before COVID,
oh, okay.
And now
so
now we're up at 12, and we're going to add another developer as well. We're in a really good place, actually. Despite COVID, we obviously had that big drop, like everybody did in April, May, kind of going, nobody's spending money, everyone's sitting still, and then I think as the whole kind of world and all of our clients got back into the swing of just actually you can be productive and we can all still be working, and we want part of the economy to continue to work. And also we were well positioned to really support clients who needed to move and needed to try something different, whether they're doing all their events online, whether they needed to offer a portal into a different tool because you can meet anyone in person. So we were well positioned to really support our clients and kind of help them through COVID.
And I think the space that you're in, I think it's only mindset that will hold back any agency that has technology at the heart of what they do. I mean, as long as you've got technology, and whether it's in your marketing or in your service delivery, and for you guys especially, I just said this in the last interview, COVID's been the biggest accelerator of business transformation, and most businesses are behind the technology curve. They're not in front of it like they used to be, and so agencies like yourselves, really, if you can keep your mindset positive and you can build your awareness enough in the market, you should be an abundance of business out there. I think it's just unfortunate for some of the people in the tougher sectors like the event space and high street retail, some of those areas maybe where transformation is not been as fast.
Yeah, and I do think there's just a huge opportunity. I mean, obviously, COVID has been a disaster, culturally, economically, it's horrible. But at the same time, I do think there's a massive opportunity, to change our general culture, to change our attitude to work, the way that we kind of view productivity, kind of team morale, bringing technology in a much more positive way, not kind of looking at it like the social dilemma way, but seeing how, it can really benefit and actually make our work life kind of balanced much better. Because certainly, I mean, all our team used to mostly work in the office. We did have flexible working, but the majority, chose to base themselves primarily here. Now everybody's working from home. Everyone's quite happy working from home. We made sure everyone had their kit. They were, kind of well tooled up to work from home. Lots of them are now kind of saying, well, maybe I'll drop in 1-2 days a week. It's fine. If anything, our productivity's gone up. We chat less at the coffee machine. And the guys are all like really enjoying just working from home, and we have lots of meetings and lots of interactions in different ways. But yeah, I think if you can look at it at that with a positive mindset, there's huge kind of positives we can take from this situation.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's definitely, I love the attitude, and I think you're 100% right. And so, and it's something that came up in the last interview I did, just everyone, especially, and your types of agency, most of the people in the business are communicating on Slack anyway, right? So as soon as they go remote, well, there's not much difference, really. I mean, in some ways, it's doesn't really slow down, hasn't really slowed down. I've actually only come across a couple of agencies where their productivity has dropped as a result of going remote, and I do think there are some issues around creative collaborations and things like that, where being face to face is a good thing. And so you touched on the social element, and I'd just like to ask you about that as well. Like, I think it's been probably the big hot topic of the last fortnight or so now, and I actually found myself coming off Facebook about 2 years ago when the privacy thing first started, and I think having watched it the other night, I feel really torn because I'm still on Instagram and I'm still on WhatsApp.
Yep.
But really, apart from LinkedIn, I could probably live without all of it. And I would think I would like to call myself someone who's got very strong mental health resilience, mainly because I don't know, maybe I'm just of that era where, we worked so hard when we were younger that actually now it's not that much harder. It doesn't, I don't know, we don't, maybe this, I've been on the screen for so many years, I'm used to it, but I think it's weird that, it's like my mental health definitely got affected by Facebook. I don't know why, but when I came off it, I realized that I felt happier. I did. I don't know. I felt like it was a burden, and not and it's weird. So I think it is having a negative impact on, and I wonder, and the reason I'm leading on this question with you is, as we now move into this, era of advancement on technology, this move towards singularity or machine learning, I just wonder, I wonder how ethical we're going to be about our approaches to it, rather than just willful blindness going into, manipulation.
Absolutely. I mean, I sat watching The Social Dilemma with my husband, who's not, he's not in this industry. He works in a completely different industry. And he was kind of aghast at like the things that, they were kind of telling you about. And I sat there feeling both kind of a bit depressed that I was in this industry that was doing so much harm, but at the same time kind of going, well, I'm really pleased I am in this industry, because I'm so aware that actually all of this is going on and I have a knowledge and an understanding. But then on the other side, I do think that kind of ethical responsibility side is going to almost have to weave its way back through the whole industry, probably eventually kind of right down to people like us who are, putting third-party apps on websites so that we can monitor, your movements around a website. Should we be telling everybody very clearly, not buried in the cookie kind of policy, but very upfront? And I think there will have to be a big shift into where that responsibility lies, because I don't think we can just, leave it at Facebook and say, well, if Facebook are doing it, then why should any of the rest of us do it? It's not responsible, and it's not, I don't think it's what the community should be doing going forward. But it's a behemoth to stop. Wow.
There was a great quote, which I'm never going to remember it now because I'm live on air, but it was when I was at South by Southwest. It was West on remember the box set West, was it Westworld, where they're all AI? Yeah. Did you ever see it?
Yeah.
And it was one of the producers there, and he said, if we go into AI with as much planning as we did with social media, we're all doomed, or words to those effect. And I thought he's right. I think the thing that concerned me the most, I really want to get my kids to watch it. If anyone hasn't watched it, please, I think go on to Netflix and do watch the show. And I'd like my kids to watch it because I want them to be self-aware of the information that's being shown to them is controlled, it is manipulated, and it is a rabbit hole. Because I'm obviously we're on YouTube live now, and I love YouTube. I pay my subscription, but it does send you down rabbit holes. You watch one episode and like if you start with Joe Rogan, you always end up on some kind of extreme, obscure channel about something. It's quite funny how it just thinks you're going to go down this path and it takes you there.
Yeah, and I think that was the most interesting thing I took away from The Social Dilemma, and I can't remember his name, that awesome guy with the dreads, who just said, if you do one thing differently on social, like if you're, fair enough, you're not going to delete all your channels, but if you do one thing, just don't click on the recommended video, like don't give it more fuel, just be mindful that you should just go and search for something else that you want to see. Don't just blindly just keep hitting play. And it was really interesting. I thought, yeah, of course, because then they can't pigeonhole you quite as easily. And you don't
I always find myself in echo chambers I don't believe in. Like it's quite like I'll find that when I was on Facebook, especially, one of the reasons I came off it is actually I'd find the opinions of some people I knew completely contra to my opinions, and actually it was weird. And I thought sometimes it would just assume that I was somebody that I wasn't. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't like that kind of collective, we're going to lump you into that. That.
It's almost, it definitely, yes, it's very, very weird. So, but yeah, that's just almost like a bit of a topical news story from the day. So how many years have you now been at Primate? So it's about 6 years now?
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah, 6 years now.
And so you have, by the way, I'm just about to start this part of the conversation, and it's almost like the heavens have opened up over Michelangelo and you. It's like there's an angel beaming. Is it my brightness, or genuinely is there like these rays of light coming through your window to the left?
There probably will be. So we've got skylights right the way along, like the big vaulted roof.
It's quite magical. It actually looks like there's some divine intervention. You're getting some beams of light being blasted over you right now.
Oh, well, maybe, finally. Come on in.
Someone's looking after you somewhere, I think.
Happy days.
So Now I've said that, I'll probably get loads of YouTube recommendations for religious channels or something.
Yep.
Michelangelo adverts start appearing, museum trips on my Instagram account.
I got an email this morning that reminded me that I got ordained into the Universal Life Church 5 years ago so that I could marry my best friends. And they sent me an email this morning, and it was just like that, with this kind of big sun at the very top, and they were going, Reverend Rebecca, where have you been for the last 4 years? How are you doing? How many things have you kind of presided over? None so far. Next year. That's Anna's wedding's next year.
Love, that's a good story. So tell us then a little bit about your journey, and in particular, I think there is. I'm sort of hedging when I say this now. I think there's some really important lessons to come from the story that you can share with us now. And I think I often talk about the work-life balance, but the reality is that work and life, for many business owners, it integrates, it blends together, doesn't it? Like, we never is a true switch on and switch off.
No.
And it's how you manage that integration is really important. But that said, sometimes you have to kind of put perspective on your life and your work, and I'm sure you can probably share that experience better with me. So let's share with everyone, because everyone's wondering what the hell I'm talking about.
What we're talking about.
Your journey.
So obviously I joined Primate in 2015, and we've worked really hard to kind of grow the business, but it was very organic growth. And so in 2018, we decided, right, we're going to go for it. Let's invest. We're going to move into a bigger office. We had to anyway. They were demolishing the old one. We invested in a business coach. We really pulled the team together, and we invested heavily. And 2019 was going to be our big growth year. We had big numbers we wanted to hit. We had clients and accounts we wanted to bring on. We put absolutely everything kind of down, and we were going, right, 1st of January, here we come, like this is our growth year. I got married in September 2018, just towards the end of the year, and in October 2018, my husband wasn't feeling that well. It just felt like he permanently had like a bit of a bug, but there was nothing wrong with him. And then around about the end of the October, he had a lymph node kind of come up in his neck, and he was being a boy about it. And I'm going to just put you all in there because none of you go to the doctor fast enough. And I said to him in the car, actually, you have to go to the doctor and check about this, because what if it's cancer? That bad wife sentence. And on the 21st of December, he was diagnosed with stage 3 head and neck cancer. And it had started in his tonsils, and it had now spread down all of the lymph nodes in his neck, and it was one away from his lungs. And if it had gone into his lungs, we were stage 4, different kettle of fish, but we were in stage 3. And so, kind of the world fell apart. It was the 21st of December.
So you'd only been married for a month when you recognised that, and by just 3 months later.
Yeah, 3 months later, he was diagnosed. Gosh. And so it was a fairly quiet Christmas. Actually, on the day that he was diagnosed, we just sort of got the news, and that was it. And it was all over the phone because it was Christmas, and there's a bit of a shutdown, but there's not a huge shutdown in the NHS, so we couldn't get in to see his consultant. And we just kind of called everybody and pulled everyone together in our local pub. And we had this really weird kind of, everyone would come in and people would cry and people would laugh, and then there were kids and there were dogs. And it was actually, weirdly looking back, it was such a nice evening. So
can I get this right? So you got everyone to the pub to tell them, or you told them no. Got them all together afterwards? Oh, okay.
All on their own on the phone. And then
sorry. I was like, wow, that's pretty brave. So
no.
But I guess in a way it was quite good to get everyone to come out and, see you in one go and talk about it and stuff.
Yeah. And then when you're diagnosed with cancer, the NHS, whilst everyone complains about, it taking weeks to get a GP appointment or, various other issues, it truly envelops around you. Like, there's the process, and you are on that conveyor belt, and you are not getting off until they're finished. So on the 7th of January, he was having surgery to have his tonsils removed and have that cancer removed. And he was on chemotherapy by the first week in February.
Whoa. So actually, it's, first of all, I saw an article the other day, actually, and there was a newsreader on telly, and they had a lump in their neck, and someone who watched the show had written into her and said,
I saw this,
yeah, you need to get that checked out. And she did, and it was probably, you know, same thing, a lymph in the neck, and basically saved her life. She didn't really even realize, well, maybe she didn't save her life, but she certainly made her aware of it earlier than it would have done. How did it affect you at work at that point? So obviously what happened about work and the business in particular?
Yeah, so I was, obviously you have no knowledge, you have no idea what you're going into. You're fairly certain it's going to be a bit rough, but you have absolutely no idea what train you're about to get on, and you know how sick or how well the person will cope. You know, will they? You know, you have no idea. So I was really resolute at the start, going, right, you know what, I'm gonna work full time. If necessary, I'll do condensed hours, chuck it into 4 days. You know, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna make sure everything kind of ticks along. It'll be fine. And fairly soon it became apparent that was not possible. But we probably waited a bit too long. Like, in hindsight, looking back, we didn't make the switch fast enough. I was still heading up new business and all of our sales, and like just dropping balls left, right, and center. And as his journey kind of went on, so Keith's chemotherapy was really, really intensive. He had like 5 days at a time inpatient chemo, so he was very, very sick on the other side of it. So I would have to take kind of days off to really help him at home. And then I would come back and, you know, try and get into tenders and pitches and proposals. But maybe then a week's gone past and you've missed that chance to talk to the client. And it, you know, looking back, it was just all unraveling kind of slowly. But we hadn't stepped back and kind of taken that bigger picture. And by that point, I was kind of not in the headspace to be able to take that step back and go, wow, okay, what's happening? So it wasn't until the end of April that actually the guys, and this is where, you know, it's funny you say, how does it work with a 4-person kind of director team? Without the 3 of them, like, I mean, if this was my agency on my own, would it be here? Probably not, because I had no choice but to take, I think I took 7 weeks out in the end when he was really, really unwell. And I had to step out because my mental health was suffering. You know, I was a complete mess. By that point, he'd picked up neutropenic sepsis. He was really, really sick. You know, we were then in radiotherapy, so we were at hospital every single day for a month and a half. It's brutal and it's laborious, and there was no real physical way that I could have been in the business and running the business at the time.
I mean, I think many people listening maybe have been through this, and you know, I unfortunately lost my mother to cancer about 4 years ago, and it's fine, and I had to go through those hospital visits with her while she had treatment, and actually for her it was, you know, it was, you know, many years. I think it was probably about 6 or 7 years from memory, you know, but it's very draining, isn't it? It's very, you know, it is an emotional. It does have an emotional impact on people around, you know, that the person who's ill and stuff. So you have to give a lot of energy, and so you're doing like new business. So I'm guessing that there's not really anybody else in the business that can do that. Is there, or was there, or it's quite a hard thing to delegate away in a smaller agency?
It's a really hard thing to delegate away, and it's hard because we were very much kind of in our roles and in our lanes, and so the only way, you know, and Gordon would come in and would really support kind of new business in that process, like all the time. But he also he's like our FD. He's also, you know, kind of was MD at the time. So he has a whole raft of other issues that he has to manage on a daily basis. You know, Bart's our technical director. He's running the studio. Steve's our design director. He's ensuring everything that we output is quality. You know, so we have our good lanes. So it was a real switch up to try and kind of pull Gordon in. And I did have to drop him in it twice, actually. So we had a huge pitch for a potential client, which was absolutely incredible. It was a great opportunity. We spent a ton of time doing it. You know, that usual agency way where you leave it till the very last minute. So we're like 48 hours out and still doing the pitch deck and working all through all of that. Keith got sepsis. And at 8 o'clock that morning, I had to call Gordon. I was in floods of tears because they couldn't get his temperature down. He was spiking up well over 39. He was had these permanent kind of convulsions, which I now know is just febrile convulsions. So it's when you're too warm, your body kind of shakes to try and chill itself out. But at the time, I'm just like, all right, well, he's clearly going to have a seizure, die. And so I just picked up the phone. I had to say to Gordon, you have to take the pitch. I can't be there. And we're a small agency. We don't have pitch teams that, you know, I can't just say, hey, pitch team B, do you mind kind of coming in? Can you run it for me? That would be great. So he had to pick it up, and he had to finish the deck. He had to get right inside the tender, and I'm always our tender lead. Yeah. So it was really it was a real challenge getting back out of there, and it was not detrimental. Our turnover massively contracted. We made a financial loss at the end of the year. We can look back and we can see the impact. You can see it on sales. You can see billing drop, sales drop. You can see it in the financials from last year.
So I know there's a lot more to your story that's coming in a minute, but in the meantime, but when you look back to that point, what advice would you give other people? In the extraordinary, because agency life is full of challenges. It really is, isn't it? There isn't a week or a month or a year that goes by without something being a challenge in the business. But when it becomes something that's almost more a matter of life or death. I had a good friend of mine whose sister used to work in the business, and she used to always say, we're building websites, not saving lives. When it was always the clients would get quite dramatic about business, but when it is someone close to you that gets ill, and it means that as a business owner, you're whether it's a family member or whether it's a partner. What advice would you give now for people to do in those situations? Is there anything you can do?
Yes. Looking back, the first thing you have to do is, if I remember right at the very start, actually, we sat down with Keith, and you get a specialist nurse who kind of helps you through treatment. And I said to Linda, Linda, look, my background is account management, project management. I need the entire roadmap of this. Okay. I need to know when everything's starting. I need to know what the entire treatment process is going to look like. That'll really help me manage it. I can manage Keith. We can get through this that way if you give me all the information now. And she just stood up and turned to me and said, you can't project manage medicine, and you definitely can't project manage cancer. And I remember so vividly being so offended, going, you don't know who I am, and you don't know what I could do and how I can help project manage this. And she's completely right. You have no idea. One day you're fine, the next day you've got temperature, you're back in the hospital being checked for an infection, you're out of the hospital, you're vomiting uncontrollably for no apparent reason, you're on different medication, you have another scan. It's they can't tell you what's going to happen because they really flex as your body responds to the treatment. But I think the biggest takeaway would be, get perspective. Everybody needs to kind of step back and say, right, let's expect the worst. Okay, let's expect you to be out of the business for 12 weeks. What does that look like? How's that going to impact us? How can we budget? Who can we bring in? Can we bring in, consultants? Can we bring in support? Can we really switch up the team? And just expect the worst. Our business continuity plan was not worth it. It just wasn't worth anything until we really tested it. So definitely doing that and just getting some perspective, even if it's outside perspective, is really, really key and beneficial.
Sounds like some really good advice there. I think, I think that's, it's, I think, definitely for me, having some kind of, it's very hard to have business continuity plans for everything, because let's face it, you don't know what's going to happen to you in life, and none of us could have predicted COVID, well, apart from Bill Gates. No. But I think, but it is, I think when these things happen, as hard as it will be emotionally, I'm sure, I guess there'll be a lot of peace of mind. At least you can come up with a plan. And I think the outside advice thing, I think, is good, because I think you sometimes there's there may be more experience as well, just on what other things could happen that you don't know as a consequence. So how?
But also listening. Sorry, just to jump in. Listening to that advice, because by pure chance, our business coach, who was incredible, when I explained to her that Keith's diagnosis, it turned out her husband had the same cancer 2 years before, and she sat me down and she said, "You realize you're going to have 3 hats now. You're going to have your business hat, you're going to have your wife hat, and you're going to have your carer hat, and you're going to spend a lot more time wearing the carer hat than you understand." And I kind of scoffed and went, "Oh, you're in your 60s. It's not going to be the same." It was absolutely the same. It was exactly the same. But I think there's also a bit of ostriching. I don't want to consider how bad it might get. So let's just roll with it. But in terms of kind of business management, it's absolutely the worst thing you could do.
Yeah. So did you ever find out what caused the cancer with your husband? Was it?
It was just a virus, and it mutated basically, and had become cancerous. And he wasn't
Wow.
a heavy smoker. He was nothing. And it's hard, cancer diagnosis now, very few of them are caused directly by, if you've smoked 60 a day for 30 years, then yes, possibly they can absolutely attribute it. But so many other factors now, kind of lifestyle, the fact we live in the Western world, we have a much higher incidence of cancer than kind of Eastern world. Hormones, age, diet, exercise, everything has this like tiny little nuance to it that will impact cancer.
And so what happened to him in that next period? I mean, what was the next thing that happened after where we got up to?
So I took those kind of 7 weeks off to really be with him and help him out. Because of where his cancer was, he had a lot of radiotherapy on his neck, so he lost the ability to swallow temporarily and kind of speak. And so you have to do a lot of rehab to kind of get that all back up. It's really good diet. He lost 20 kilos in 6 months. But after radiotherapy,
it's funny you can laugh about it now. I wonder how long it's been. I'm sitting there kind of shocked. You're laughing. It's like there's obviously a time where it's okay. You can laugh at the cloud having a silver lining, losing weight. So
I think it's also really encouraged by like the medical teams that he had. The nurses are so dark, and their banter is exceptional. Like these people are really unwell and sick, on a hospital ward, gravely ill, and they're still taking the piss and kind of really winding them up. But it's great because it brings some levity and some, not joy, but just some lightness to that situation. And I think we realized, and his consultant was really sarcastic and dark, and he always had a dark joke for everything. And we just kind of absorbed that, and that's who we are now. So yeah, we make terrible cancer jokes now.
That's so funny. So he lost his voice.
Yeah, and then fast forward a couple of months, 13th of August, which was also my birthday. It was a dangerous game by his consultant. He was given all clear, and he was cleared of cancer and cured. And we were sent off on our merry way, which was incredible.
It's amazing. And so, how is he today?
He's great. He's super healthy, kind of back up to his normal weight. He ran part of the virtual London Marathon at the weekend with my brother from Macmillan.
Nice.
Super fit. I mean, you would never recognize. In fact, we met his consultant a couple of months ago, and he was saying, "You just don't look like the same person. Like you're so well now." And the chance of his cancer coming back is exceptionally slight. It's down at like 4% over 15 years. So so they consider him cured, and that's it.
So where are we up to? We're up to August 2019.
Mm-hmm. So fast forward 49 days, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh no!
So yeah, it was a year. So we had 49 days cancer free in 2019, and actually, it kind of actually goes right the way back to April though. So those months where I was super stressed, super unwell, had to step out of the business.
Yeah,
that's when I found a lump, and I just thought nothing of it. I thought, it'll be nothing. I'll ignore it. And so I ignored it right the way up until August. And even my GP said, it'll be nothing, but let's just refer you just in case. You don't need any more stress and worry. So I got referred, and I met my lovely consultant, who said, it's probably nothing, but let's check. And then came back and said, yeah, no, actually, you're scoring a 5 out of 5 on all of our tests, which means there's a 90% chance that this is cancer, but we'll confirm next week.
Oh no, you had to wait another week. That must have been a tough week.
And it was the week of our wedding anniversary, so we were down in Bath. We had planned this big fancy weekend away, which was awesome. We still had some great times, but we also drank quite a lot of red wine and sort of worried about what was coming next. And of course, it came.
So do you think that because of what had happened with your husband, had that helped you deal with this mentally, or not really? It's still.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm an information person. I like information. I like data. So the fact that I was after him, I knew exactly what was coming, and like, it really helped me kind of process it. Like, by that week, everyone else around us was holding on to the 10%, going, "No, you're due some luck. It's absolutely not going to be cancer." But I had already kind of said, "Right, no, it will be cancer. Let's just start processing this. Let's just accept it. If it wasn't, then it'd be a nice surprise." But I had already kind of gone on that grief cycle, kind of let's work through this process, and then let's just get straight back into treatment. So for me personally, it was the right way round, if I was going to call it either way round.
Yeah. And so I guess you'd been started to get back into the business at that point as well. So you're just starting to get back to normal.
Yeah, I was totally back into the business. We were back on our growth plan. I actually was so convinced that there was nothing, that I had meetings all lined up in the afternoon. So, I had my appointment in the morning, but meetings in the afternoon. So just after, the doctor kind of told me this, I had to call Gordon and say, hey, okay, bad news. They think it's cancer, but also, can you take over the 2 meetings that I've got scheduled this afternoon? So it was both like a call to tell you some crap news and also a call to just like get some business continuity happening again. So yeah, I was fully back in the business, and we were about to have to make the switch all over again.
Oh no! And how was the business doing at that stage? Without, was it? You mentioned before that you look back at the numbers, and how was it doing? Even though you had the coach and the advice, what was? By
that point, we were very much in recovery mode. So actually, sales were going up, kind of billing was going up. Because the last 2 quarters really pulled it back for us. Without the final 2 quarters, it would have been even worse. But actually, yeah, we kind of got to a point where we were building back up again, and kind of we're making a bit more profit, and it was going well. But this time around, we didn't wait. So we switched everybody's roles, the director's roles, straight away. So Bart, our technical director, became ops. So he headed up everything that was leaving the studio, including planning and everything else. I came out completely and was just a support to sales. Gordon moved fully into sales. And our other team members kind of moved around to really support all of those angles. And it worked really, really well. It worked perfectly.
And did you guys ever at any time think, you need to check out of this? Like, you need to check out of the business and just change your whole life? I mean, did it give you life-changing aspirations, or was that never an option?
No, so it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed my aspirations. I guess you still
have to earn a living, right? So
yeah, no, we still have to earn a living. And I will say, I have done cancer now 2 ways. We've done cancer without insurance because Keith had no critical illness, and we've done cancer with insurance because I had critical illness as a director. And if there's another thing that you can take away from it, like, go and factor in insurance for the worst possible scenario, like whether it's income protection or critical illness or health insurance. Get it, like, just invest in it as early as possible and just let it run, whether it's through the business, whether it's personal, because the difference it makes is that it's just one less thing that you have to manage.
Do you know, I think that is a wonderful piece of advice to share to people. I think, for the amount of money it costs to have it, and again, whether it's through the business or it's personal, it just seems like a very sensible thing to do. I mean, we always talk about things like key man insurance, but I think critical illness cover is one of those things that, you never need it till you need it, right? But actually, for the small investment it costs, it probably will just give you that extra. But it wasn't stressful dealing with that when you had to claim, though.
No, and I will say it's probably one of the easiest insurance claims I've ever made. And I don't know if it's just because they know that everybody's in a sort of state of heightened stress and anxiety anyway.
Sure.
So they make the process easier. But I mean, I literally had to call my insurance company, explained what had happened. They sent a letter to my consultant who replied, and that was it. Dropped into a bank account.
Yeah, I think you sharing that piece of advice is invaluable. So you had to now go through your treatment from September onwards, was it?
Yes, I was diagnosed on the 1st of October. So like you've got your 1 year Agencyphonics.
Yeah,
so I've got my 1 year cancer anniversary. So 1st of October, we did some emergency IVF for a month, which made me crazy. God bless the team for living with me for that month. And then I started chemo on the 29th of October. And again, though, so kind of looking back, I was resolutely not going to leave the business again this time. I was like, no, I'll work through treatment. I will be here. I'll work part-time. I'll take a week off for chemo.
Why was that? Do you think did you think it'd make you feel happier to work? Or why was that? Tell me. I'll stop guessing.
I know I do. I love work, and I loved being in this agency and in the industry and just in that kind of that flow. And I just didn't want to give it up. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to step out. But the other directors had to stage an intervention come December, and I was kind of sat down very quietly at our board meeting, and they said, look, we just want you to get well. Could you please just take some sick time? Like, just take a month initially, and then maybe it'll go to 2, and maybe it'll go to 3, but just go out of the business. Because also, actually, I had become, I was more detrimental by that point. You know, I was ill. I was in and out. So nobody really knew when I was in, when I wasn't in. So I couldn't lead anything. You know, client comms. You know, there's no point sitting with me. I was a real distraction as opposed to a support to the business then. So again, it was the best call. But it's that perspective. You don't have that perspective when you're in that fight or flight kind of panic. How do I make a logical decision mode? You just can't. It's like physically impossible.
Yeah. And I think, you know, whenever I don't know whether you use Office Vibe to measure your staff satisfaction, but a lot of the clients I work with do. And I feel like I'm sponsored by Office Vibe because I talk about them all the time. I'm not at all, but it is a great tool. And what I learned from it, Rebecca, was that in agencies, there's a part of it which is it surveys all your team on how happy they are. And one of the sections is called well-being. Mm-hmm. And I have got some if you're doing well, you get a green bar, and if you're not doing well, I think it goes orange. And it's like in every agency they'll have like 10 sections of the business that are surveyed, and most of my clients will have 9 out of the 10 will all be green, but the wellness one is always orange. It's always the lowest score. Even in the agencies that are in the top 1% on the planet on their NPS scores, the wellness is always the lowest score. And I put it down to the fact that in agencies, there is this inherent stress of deadlines. And, you know, there's always, and you can't remove that, you know, and you can't remove the stress that is often caused by clients' demands and you know, not being reasonable or unreasonable, but meeting their expectations. Yeah. And things do go wrong, right? Whenever you're working on projects, and you know, time slips, and you know, yep, clients delay sign-offs, and you have people ill, and so these problems manifest. You know this from your account manager, project management days. And so I guess it, you know, in a way, our industry, I think, you know, has got some stresses in it, like, you know, the way we are. And so for you going back into the work, some people thrive off the stress, but I never really understand. Like, I thrive off stress, but I never understand if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I kind of think I tell myself it's a good thing, but probably deep down, my body probably doesn't like it. You know, it's
I would say I was the same person. I thrived off stress. Like, I loved that, you know, that last minute rush right up to the end of a pitch where you're just working flat out and you've got that adrenaline buzz. And I find, you know, I could really focus. But I also look back and just think it's such a bad way to live now. It's so detrimental to your health. And I've completely changed my approach to kind of stress now. I just don't let things stress me out the way it used to. I mean, I could get myself into the point, you know, when you feel almost like you're buzzing, like you've got that vibration with kind of levels of stress. But I also think it's cultural, and I don't think it's just in our industry. I think, you know, across our culture, we have a huge kind of tendency to really kind of reward bad behavior. So like, oh, you're super stressed and you're super busy. Well, that's great. You must be really successful. You know, unless you have 25 things on, you know, are you successful? We really celebrate that busyness, you know, over exercising, going out, like party hard, work hard, play hard. And I think that really has to shift. And I think maybe COVID is a good catalyst for that. You know, everyone had to stop for, you know, 6 months and go, right, well, what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I think COVID, I mean, it certainly, I am from that that era of, of working hard. I always say it, I say, I think to be successful, unfortunately, you do have to, I do believe you have to work hard, and I believe you can work smart, but I think what you've got to do is almost work hard and then get clever and optimize and become smarter. So you're not, you're not working as hard, but you're certainly still achieving the same output. So I think COVID has really helped a lot of people work smart. I would definitely think that, for example, I probably commute 20 hours a week, and I don't have to do that now because of COVID. And that means I have more time. I'm at home earlier in the evening. I'm at home later in the morning. And, and so actually, personally, I think COVID's been great for me. And I honestly, I think I was probably talking about retiring in 5 years. The beginning of this year, I did my 10-year plan. And I realized that, 10 years from now, I probably wouldn't want to be working anymore, and actually started to think about a 5-year plan. But because COVID, and because I'm not working as hard and I'm not as stressed, I've fallen back in love with my job again. And actually I never really fell out of love with it, but now I can see 10 years. And what I'm trying to say here is I think a lot of people get tired in their jobs and they get stressed, and actually sometimes it's just about changing the way you approach it to suit you. But nevertheless, I do find sometimes people go the other way. And I just say this as someone who, who mentors business, where almost like it's so relaxed that it's almost like you're going to
go nowhere.
Yeah, it's going to go nowhere. And and I think that's, by the way, probably the reason why I never started another agency after I sold mine, because I did the 63-hour pitch with 3 hours sleep. And like you said, and I was kind of convincing myself that I was loving it, but I think when I stopped, I had to go, you know what, it's going to kill me if I keep doing this, So
I think it's about working differently as well, because I mean, if you look back to March to now, I'm sure Cactus is equally, or if not as successful, without you, kind of doing the day-to-day that you used to do. And we're finding the same. We're working differently. And even if those small changes kind of can reduce the stress, and I made that joke. I used to make that joke all the time. Nobody died. Okay, nobody's going to die because a website element is delivered late, or because they're not super happy with that design. None of us are going to die. And I do think we need to keep that mindset and that focus, and just I don't react anymore. I could get a spiky client email about something previously, and it would really eat me up, and I would, I'd be overly stressed about it. And now I have a completely different approach. It just does not worry me. And I don't stress about the, where the business is going or the success of the business anymore. And I think actually it's having a much greater effect on the business. But we've got this mindset, we've got this approach, and sales are going up.
I love that, and I'm with you 100%. I think certainly you've had to find ways to probably work smarter. COVID's forced that a lot. I mean, I think we'll have our best year ever, which is crazy considering what's happened. And I was telling someone that everyone would always demand to see us face to face. They want, but actually the reality is that because when people rate our days, when I work with Pete, we use MPS to rate our days. And I said to Pete jokingly, I bet our score goes down to an 8 or 9 when we do our workshops remotely. And then we kept scoring 10. And in fact, I would say the service is probably better remotely than it is in person, because there's less distractions. You get through much more. Yeah. I haven't had a drive and stuck in a traffic jam that could have made me anxious or angry or wound up that's not to say there aren't some negatives, obviously, to working remotely. Like, it's still, in some ways you can still fill the time up with commuting with more calls and more work. And we've had to do that a lot, because we have to, we do like to help people who are struggling, through this period. We've helped a lot of people in our spare time, but I guess, you are right. We do carry on sometimes working the way we've always done, and we don't stop and relook at it and go, is there a smarter way that will be better for us, for this work-life, balance? And what's been great about everything you said, because I heard a talk recently about someone in a similar situation, and the person was saying, what's really more important, work or, but of course it's very difficult, because the reality is that, some people need to still earn a living. You've still got to pay for things, right? And there could be more stress caused by not having any income.
Absolutely.
And so it's, yes, you could probably change your job, but it doesn't mean it's going to be any less stressful because of other factors, So what's interesting is you kept working. Sorry, I'll get to my point.
Yeah.
You pursued working with your job. You didn't go, we're just going to check out now,
Yeah, well, so I kept working right the way up to December until I was kind of politely asked to leave. Which was exactly what I needed and what the business needed, for sure. But in that first month in January, my mental health nosedived. I was absolutely miserable without work.
Right.
To the point that, I was referred to the kind of the therapy service within my own cancer unit. And I needed a lot of help to kind of pull me back out. And you mentioned social media earlier. I came off everything. I ditched Instagram, I ditched Facebook, all of it, just to try and, I just got into reading books, not Kindles, being very quiet, going outside for dog walks, and doing very little else. Sleep. Oh my gosh, the restorative qualities of sleep. We need sleep. And eventually, kind of come the end of January, I was feeling much better. And then, so I went through all my treatment. I had chemotherapy. I had 2 surgeries. I had radiotherapy, and then the 1st of April, I kind of just fell back into the business because COVID hit, and we went, oh God, right. Come back in. How are we navigating ourselves out of here?
Did you need the extra stress of going back in the business so quickly, though? Or was it more stressful not being in the business?
I think for me, it was probably more stressful not being in the business. But I won't lie, that first month back in was like, there's something called chemo brain. So basically, because chemo kills off all your rapidly dividing cells, you really lose the ability to remember anything. So it was a huge challenge that first month. I had lists and lists of comments that I had to kind of try and remember. But, I think also as a company, we approached it completely differently. We didn't kind of go, all right, well, this, the worst is about to happen. The agency's going to collapse. We kind of went, all right, so let's expect a drop in sales. How else can we help? Let's put together some ideas. Let's go out to clients. Let's start talking to them. Let's keep comms up as much as we possibly can. It wasn't like a panic station moment. We had some staff on furlough. We did what everyone else did. But by June, everyone was back in the business and working full time.
Wow, that's really good. I think most people I came across got everyone back by about September, but to get everyone back by June, that's really good. So, well done to you guys. And so, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm cured.
Wow, that's amazing. Both of you to go through that and to get the all clear.
Yeah, all clear. And now I just need COVID to go so that I can finally get on a plane and go somewhere sunny, because I had to postpone my honeymoon to Australia. And I just feel like we keep postponing it by another year and another. So I need COVID to go away next year.
If there's anyone that deserves a holiday to Australia or a honeymoon, then it's you right now, for sure. So, that's really been, a good 2 years of your life, really. That's been, and when COVID came as well, talk about icing on the cake. That's not the right saying, really, but talk about the final straw, of things to hit, to hit you guys.
But you know what? I'm Cancer Park, right? I was in cancer treatment, so I was allowed to leave the house every week for the first 2 months.
Oh, really?
So everyone else was stuck at home, and I was getting to go to hospital. I got 2 hours away from my husband, because God, I love him and I'm so pleased that he's here. But it was intense living with him through lockdown. So I would get to go to hospital, get one-on-one nursing care because of social distance. It was a proper perk. It was great. Yeah.
So but do you think it made you more, because of the difficult times that you and your husband had to go through dealing with cancer? Do you think that when COVID came, it helped in any strange, peculiar way? Because it's like when something really bad happens to you, surely everything else doesn't seem quite as bad.
Totally.
or not?
Yeah.
Did it
No,
help?
absolutely. I mean, it does feel like we have lived lockdown for 2 years, like as opposed to 6 months. But we were so prepared for it because actually, like lockdown life is chemo life. Okay, so if you're on chemo, you can't spend too much time near people. You can't hug people because you've got no immune system. You spend your life wearing either a mask or gloves or using hand sanitizer, and you're scared of every possible germ. Like it's literally chemo life, except everybody got to live it. And for once, we had no FOMO. Okay, all of you were doing nothing. I can't sit at home and get really unhappy that cancer stopped my life and I can't go out and do these things because nobody was doing it. So I think we were probably as best prepared as we could be mentally, and it wasn't as big a deal as it kind of could have become. I certainly didn't feel like it was just a snowball and now we were stuck at home and everything. It was very much, well, done it before.
Yeah.
What's another 6 months?
I like stories with happy endings because that's I'm one of these people. I go to the movie, if it's not a good ending, I'm not happy. So I'm really pleased for both of you, and I think it's very it's also very brave of you to share this story. And I guess time's gone on enough now, but to a certain degree that you probably get easier at telling the story and laughing about it as you are, but I'm really pleased with both of you, and I think there's some valuable lessons. I really hope people listening have taken a lot from this, and just to stop and reflect, I guess, and said, have we got critical illness? What would if something happened, what would our action plan be? Even if it's not the details of it, to know in your head that they've heard this story and that actually first you just come up with a plan. Maybe get someone at local outside or whatever to help, give some perspective on the business and what you should do, or a couple of people anyway, at least. And
just have that. It's where that community actually, and kind of communities like Agencynomics are so important, because actually, then you have people you could have a conversation with and say, can we just get your opinion? Or, I know that if the worst had happened, we could have pulled somebody else in. We if we could budget for it, we could have got someone else in. So. Yeah, I think being a bit prepared is absolutely kind of key. And do you know what? Being grateful. I remember constantly wanting the agency to be bigger and bigger clients, and let's just keep going, and never kind of being grateful for where we are now. And I think just it's given me that perspective to kind of go, I love where we are now. Like 5 years ago, I would have loved to be where we are now. So a bit more gratitude and just pause and kind of enjoy the moment. And it's honestly so cliche. Every time I tell people that, I can see their face going, it's so cliched, but it is.
but moving forwards now, just my sort of the last question really on it is, when you look at your life moving forward, what have your priorities changed in any way?
I don't think my priorities have changed. I'm still hugely ambitious. We still have huge ambitions for the agency. I want to go and have kids, which I think we should be able to do. I still want to achieve everything, but I will go about it in a different way. I will reduce the stress as much as possible. Yeah. I do not sweat the small stuff in the same way. I had a flat tire the other day. Who cares? Like, we'll just call someone will fix it.
I love that. You don't sweat the small stuff. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I need to learn to do that.
But actually, I took your burnout test the other day. So we lost a project I had poured my soul into because it was for the NHS, and I'd convinced I was manifesting. I was convinced we were going to get it, and we didn't. And I took it really hard, really, really personally as well. And I felt really stressed.
Did you score high? I can't remember. Did you
no,
write?
So I took it and I scored 1.3.
Oh yeah, no, I think I was with. That's amazing. So that shows. So just for people listening, there was a burnout test that someone shared online somewhere, and I put it into the community. But there was always a test that I used to do actually in the early days of Cactus. I don't do it so much anymore. But I remember my coach saying to me when I had my agency, Spencer, how stressed are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And I remember one day replying like 8 or something, and he said 8 is really high. Like, if you answer when someone asks you that question, it's funny. I think most people are quite honest with their replies. Like, I think it's quite a meaningful question, and therefore the reply is very meaningful. So when so at that time, and my business, my mentor, he wasn't my business. What was he? He was my non-exec. My non-exec was saying to me, you need to have a holiday, because that's just too high, and he was right. I hadn't had a holiday in a long time, and I needed to have a break and a recharge. So when I started doing the service at Cactus, I started asking it to people quite often, and it was amazing how it would vary, and every now and then I'd come across a 9 or a 10, and it's almost like a red alert system. I knew that there's a problem there. So when I shared that test in the community, I thought it was actually quite, because I did it, and what was interesting was my score was quite low, and I felt like I was reasonably stressed at the time I did it. But actually, I think it was brought down by the fact, I'm guessing like you as well, like if you love doing what you do, I think that helps a lot. If you really love your job, then you're not as stressed about things as much. If you resent your job, then I think it gets harder to keep the score down, or you get frustrated by it.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's that for me, it was the mindset switch of just going, it doesn't matter. Like, that's bigger picture. There's always a solution. And actually, I come about kind of problems much more questioning. So rather than kind of getting your back up or trying to work out the solution, actually just asking more questions about it. And I found it completely changes the way I react and an agency reacts to a problem, and then how we can manage a client as well.
Yeah. I think you've probably got something there. As it feels like a sort of, and you've probably done this already now, but it's almost like there's a blog series called The Stress-Free Agency. Maybe we should do an Agencynomics event soon called The Stress-Free Agency, and get you to come and share all the things that agency people can do to make their businesses less stressful, and less impact on personal and mental health. Because it is a real problem. Luckily, I think there is more and more support, more awareness now for these things, and maybe luckily COVID's come along and maybe help everyone. The last person we just interviewed on this show, I think it was every single one of the staff didn't want to return to full-time office work. Everyone. Okay. So that's everyone. I mean,
everyone, yeah. I've seen the difference.
Not even half. That's everybody, and they're a 45-man agency.
Wow.
So that's not to say they don't want to go there. They just don't want to go back full time into an office 9 to 5. So the world will definitely change, because I think the demands will change of the team members, and hopefully
maybe COVID is everybody's cancer. Like, it shouldn't have to take something. Like, I look back now and think, God, why did it take something life threatening, to kind of change everything? But it's completely worth it. And I remember kind of doctors telling us mindset is really key to your recovery. You recover faster. Now, you cannot think yourself well. Chemo still saves my life, but mindset is so key to actually getting to the end prognosis faster.
Yeah.
And well.
I totally agree with that. I'm a big believer in that as well. So well, it's been lovely speaking to you.
You too.
I think it's you've clearly got a fantastic agency. It's you're going from strength to strength, and to be recruiting, even in a small way through this period and not contracting, and to for you and your husband to have gone through what you have done. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
I really appreciate you sharing the story too. I think it's been quite humbling, and it's just a dose of reality as well.
Yeah, it was dark and stormy, but we're good now. We're at the other side. Still a bit dark, less stormy.
So my last question before you go is, where do you see your next 3 years? Like, do the four of you now? You said you'll have a joined up vision. I'm just curious to know, how have you done that? Have you said we're going to be this many people or this size, or have you how have you decided what's next?
So we've never put like a key number on it. We've never wanted to be like a big 60-man agency. We always felt that actually we could do the best possible work, like the best digital work out there, and have a real queue of people wanting to work with us because of the quality and because of the knowledge and because of the ways we approach design and really blend technology behind that. Because neither department is stronger than the other, and I think that's our real USP. We are as good technically with anything as we are with design. And that's the real kind of differentiator for us. So yeah, the next 3 years we want to grow, we want to get on bigger accounts, we want to bring on other clients, we want to grow all the clients that we've got as well. You know, we've got such an incredible client base who have really been with us through here, and we act very much like our clients' kind of digital partner. And I think that's another key. It's that relationship and wanting to see our clients, you know, do better than us if necessary. You know, I want to see them go further as a result of the digital work that they do with us. And so yeah, we're coming back. You know, we were going to grow in 2019, 2021. This is it. We're gonna grow that little bit bigger.
Good. Well, there'll always be. I was always taught there's always one thing every year. So let's hope it'll be a small thing next year. You deserve a small thing after all that.
Yeah,
so
I'll take like a leak in the roof. That would be fine.
So listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
it's been a great chat.
When you watch this back, you're going to love the sunlight coming through. I think at one point on my screen, it actually looked like you had this kind of like halo and sort of there was an aura around your body and everything. So it was quite magical. I think you've got a great backdrop now for all of your standing.
It's awesome, isn't it?
As well. So, yeah, thanks so much. So thanks everyone for listening. What a wonderful end to our first year. Well, my first year of vodcasting. I'm not a professional. I've kind of been learning as I go on the fly with this, but I've been very lucky to have some wonderful conversations with some wonderful agency owners and leaders, and I'm hopefully you're enjoying all these episodes. Please give me the feedback. Please like and follow. I think we're getting some real momentum now, so I really appreciate all of the support everyone gives us. And yeah, so I think I'll end on that note.
Thanks so much.